The alien warlord's claws scraped against the command throne as he watched the human colony burn below. Commander Vexthor had conquered 47 species across 12 sectors. Humans would be 48. Their defenses crumble, his tactical officer hissed. Another hour and the settlement falls. Vexthor's 3 eyes narrowed. Too easy. The humans had fought the Krydesh Empire for 6 months, winning impossible victories, turning certain defeats into legendary stands. Now they simply collapsed? The console erupted with warnings. Sir, energy spike detected. Origin point, the human settlement core. Impossible. We destroyed their power grid. Not their grid, sir. It's something else. Reading escalates beyond our sensors' capacity to measure. The viewport dimmed automatically as light flooded from the planet's surface, not the white-orange of nuclear fire. This burned blue-violet, a color that hurt to perceive. All ships, evasive pattern Omega. Vexthor roared. The beam struck his flagship dead center. Shields designed to withstand antimatter warheads simply ceased to exist. The dreadnought's hull, forged from materials harvested from collapsed stars, melted like wax. Half the bridge crew vaporized before they could scream. Vexthor's vessel lurched sideways, auxiliary thrusters firing desperately. Through the smoke and sparking consoles he saw his fleet, 12 capital ships. 8 were already debris clouds expanding into the void. Retreat, he commanded. Jump to hyperspace now. Drives are offline, sir. The energy discharge created some kind of field. Nothing works. The second beam carved through the heavy cruiser Damnation's reach. The third obliterated 2 destroyers with a single shot. Surrender! Vexthor activated all channels. We surrender. Seize fire. Silence answered him. The fourth beam sliced his flagship in half. Vexthor's escape pod punched through the dying ship's hull, joining thousands of others fleeing the massacre. He watched his armada, the pride of the Krydesh Empire, reduced to scrap metal and bodies in under 3 minutes. The planetary bombardment had stopped. The human settlement rose from the ashes, structures intact, shields shimmering with that same violet light. A transmission cut through every Krydesh frequency. This is Director Alan Hayes of the Human Colony Perseverance. You came to our world believing we didn't understand power. The voice was calm, almost gentle. You were correct. We don't understand it the way you do. We don't hoard it. We don't fear it. We don't worship it. Vexthor's pod shuddered as something locked onto it, held it in place with invisible force. We master it. Hayes continued. Every human child learns this truth before they learn to walk. Power isn't something you possess. It's something you become. The violet light pulsed once more. Welcome to humanity's definition. Vexthor's screen showed the field expanding, catching every escape pod, every piece of debris, every surviving Krydesh warrior. Not destroying them, holding them. The warlord who had conquered worlds finally understood terror. The holding cells aboard Perseverance Station hummed with the same violet energy that had torn apart the Krydesh fleet. Vexthor pressed his claws against the barrier, feeling it resist without heat, without sound, just absolute refusal to yield. Director Alan Hayes stood outside the cell, a datapad in one hand, coffee in the other. He looked unremarkable. Average height, graying hair, wearing a simple jumpsuit with coffee stains on the collar. This was the voice that had destroyed an armada. You're wondering how, Hayes said, taking a sip. Every species does. The Krydesh, the Vorath Collective, the Silicate Hives. You all ask the same question with the same disbelief in your eyes. Your weapons? Vexthor managed. Possible energy output. Our intelligence reported nothing like this. Hayes smiled. That's because you were looking for weapons. We didn't build a weapon, Commander. We built a solution. He tapped the datapad. The cell's wall shimmered, displaying equations that made Vexthor's head ache. 70 years ago, Dr. Sarah Chen cracked unified field theory, not the watered-down version the galaxy uses for FTL drives. The real thing, the mathematics of reality itself. Hayes gestured at the violet light. This isn't a gun, Commander. It's applied physics. Impossible. The computational power required would melt any AI in known space. Yes. Hayes nodded. That's why we don't use AI for it. Vexthor's spines rattled with confusion. Then what calculates the targeting solutions? The energy modulation? The field matrices? Hayes pointed at his own head. We do. The silence stretched. You're insane, Vexthor whispered. Biological minds cannot process unified field mathematics in real time. The data stream would liquefy your brain matter. For your species? Absolutely. For the Vorath? They'd crystallize. The silicates would shatter. Hayes took another sip of coffee. But humans evolve differently. Our brains are chaos engines wrapped in pattern recognition. We dream. We hallucinate. We see faces in clouds and hear music and white noise. Our minds are already accustomed to processing impossible amounts of contradictory information simultaneously. He pulled up another display. Neural scans. Hundreds of them. We don't calculate unified field theory, Commander. We feel it. We've trained operators who can manipulate quantum states the way your warriors swing swords. They think in 11 dimensions while eating breakfast. They dream in mathematical spaces that don't technically exist. Vexthor stared at the scans. How many operators does it require to generate that kind of power output? For the defense grid that destroyed your fleet? Hayes checked his datapad. 1. Her name is Lieutenant Maya Chen, Sarah's granddaughter. 23 years old. She was having a bad day because her boyfriend forgot their anniversary. You attacked while she was angry. The warlord's legs nearly gave out. One being. One human had annihilated his armada. This violates every principle of warfare, Vexthor said. Power scales with numbers, with resources, with technology, not with individuals. For you, maybe. Hayes deactivated the display. But humans don't scale linearly, Commander. We scale exponentially. 1 human with a spear is dangerous. 10 humans with spears conquered Earth. 100 humans with unified field theory? He gestured at the ruined fleet visible through the viewport. You experienced that firsthand. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. A young woman approached, wearing a neural interface crown that pulsed with soft violet light. She looked tired, her eyes ringed with dark circles. Director Hayes, she said quietly. The Kratos reinforcement fleet just entered sensor range. 200 ships. Flagship is broadcasting a demand for your immediate surrender and Commander Vexthor's return. Vexthor felt hope surge through his chest. The Empire had sent the Grand Armada. Humanity's trick weapon couldn't possibly... Hayes turned to Maya. Can you handle 200? She shrugged. I handled 12 earlier. Scaling up isn't hard, just tedious. But sir, I'd rather not. I'm running on 4 hours of sleep and spite. Fair enough. Hayes tapped his communicator. Control, spin up operators 5 through 8. Let's give Lieutenant Chen a break. Sir, Operator 7 is still in the cafeteria. Says he's not fighting alien invasions on an empty stomach. Hayes sighed. Tell him he has 5 minutes to finish his sandwich. Vexthor watched this exchange with mounting horror. They were discussing the destruction of the Empire's mightiest fleet, the way merchants discussed inventory. You can't win, he said desperately. Even if you destroy this fleet, more will come. The Empire has thousands of ships, millions of warriors, and we have 8 billion humans, Hayes interrupted. Currently, we've trained about 12,000 unified field operators. That's roughly 1 operator for every 100,000 ships you could possibly throw at us. The math isn't in your favor, Commander. The violet light pulsed brighter as operators 5, 6, and 8 took their positions in the defense grid. Through the viewport, Vexthor watched the approaching armada. He wondered if they knew they were already dead. The Grand Armada's flagship, Eternal Dominion, blazed across space with 200 warships in perfect formation. Admiral Krathzor studied the tactical display with satisfaction. This human colony would learn the price of defiance. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surface, his communications officer reported. Audio only. Put it through. Director Hayes' voice filled the bridge. Admiral, this is your only warning. Turn your fleet around. Leave this system. Never return. Krathzor's laughter rumbled through his thorax. You destroyed 1 fleet through trickery. We've analyzed the encounter. Your weapon requires precise targeting, substantial charge time, and creates detectable energy signatures. You cannot fire fast enough to stop 200 ships attacking simultaneously. You're right, Hayes admitted. One operator can't, but I'm not sending one. The tactical display erupted with alerts. Sir, multiple energy spikes detected across the human settlement. 12 distinct sources, each matching the signature that destroyed Commander Vextor's fleet. Krathzor leaned forward. All ships. Dispersal pattern Delta. Maximum evasion protocols. Fire at will. The armada scattered, engines burning at maximum thrust. Missiles and plasma bolts streaked toward the planet. The violet beams lanced upward. Operator 5, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, sat in his neural cradle munching the last of his sandwich. His mind touched the quantum foam of reality, felt the approaching missiles as disturbances in probability fields. He didn't calculate intercept vectors. He simply convinced the universe that the missiles had already detonated prematurely. 80 missiles exploded simultaneously, thousands of kilometers from their targets. Operator 6, Captain Lisa Torres, perceived the Krydesh ships as mathematical knots in space-time. She pulled one thread, and the flagship's primary weapon suddenly found itself phase-shifted 3 degrees out of alignment with reality. The firing mechanism collapsed into exotic matter. Operator 8, Ensign Dylan Foster, was hungover and irritated. He grabbed 15 ships with a probability field and flipped their momentum vectors. They stopped dead in space, engines screaming as physics caught up with the sudden reversal. Maya Chen, still wearing her neural crown despite being off-duty, felt Operator 12 struggling with a complex shield harmonics problem. She reached across the tactical network, her mind brushing against his, and showed him the elegant solution. The Krydesh barrier shields inverted, crushing the ships within their own defensive fields. "Impossible!" cried Zor, watched his armada disintegrate. "Tactical analysis, now!" "Sir, the humans are attacking from 12 positions simultaneously. Each operator demonstrates different capabilities. One manipulates kinetic energy. Another phases matter. Third creates localized time distortions. They're not using the same weapon. They're using the same science differently." The Admiral's claws dug into his command throne. "How do we fight this?" "Unknown, sir. Our weapons can't reach them through planetary shields. Our ships can't maneuver effectively. They're rewriting physics faster than our targeting computers can compensate." A new transmission cut through. Admiral Krathzor. A different voice, younger, female. "This is Lieutenant Chen. Director Hayes is letting me explain something to you." Maya's voice carried exhaustion and something worse. Boredom. Every human operator approaches unified field theory differently. Marcus over there, he's a musician. He hears quantum states as symphonies. Lisa sees space-time as architecture, builds and demolishes structures. Dylan treats physics like a boxing match, throws punches until something breaks.
"Another beam carved through a heavy cruiser?"
Me? I'm a painter. I see your ships as brush strokes on a canvas. Want to know what happens when I decide I don't like the composition? 20 ships vanished, not destroyed. Simply ceased to exist, erased from reality as if they'd never been there. We race. Maya continued. Your people think power comes from big ships, big guns, big numbers. You measure strength and tonnage and firepower. We measure it in imagination. Krathzor accessed the secure channel to Krydesh High Command. Retreat is impossible. They control our vectors. Requesting immediate quantum torpedo authorization. The response came instantly. Denied. Quantum weapons risk cascading reality failures, unacceptable in human-controlled space. Then what do you suggest? Surrender. Immediately. Wearied, the Admiral's pride warred with his survival instinct. He watched another 30 ships crumble under impossible physics. His crew looked to him for orders. "All ships," he broadcast. "Cease fire. Power down weapons. Transmit surrender codes." The violet beams stopped. Hayes' voice returned. "Smart choice, Admiral. Deactivate your engines and prepare to be tractored to holding positions. You'll be joining Commander Vextor, as tractor fields, delicate as spider silk but strong as neutronium, gripped the surviving ships. Krathzor finally understood. The humans hadn't won through superior numbers or better weapons. They'd won because they'd turned imagination into artillery. In the detention wing, Vexthor watched the Grand Armada's survivors being processed. Admiral Kravzor shuffled past his cell, 4 eyes dull with defeat. "They're monsters," Kravzor whispered, "wielding forces no biological mind should touch." "No," Vexthor replied quietly. "They're artists, and we're their canvas." On the operations deck, Maya Chen removed her neural crown and rubbed her temples. Hayes handed her coffee. 3 fleets in 6 months, she said. "When do they learn?" Hayes smiled grimly. "When we teach them." Above them, the violet lights pulsed steady, waiting. 12 operators holding back an empire. For now, it was enough. The Kredesh Empire's War Council convened in absolute secrecy, their chambers shielded by every defensive technology known to the galaxy. 12 species leaders attended via quantum-encrypted hologram. Supreme Overlord Daxmore presided, his ancient scales scarred from 100 campaigns. "We've lost 3 fleets to a single human colony," he began, each word heavy with humiliation. 400 ships, 30,000 warriors, destroyed by 12 individuals. Counselor Vrenkath slammed a claw on the table. "We should deploy the extinction fleet, glass their worlds from orbit before these operators can respond." "Tried that," reported Intelligence Director Morsha. "The Vorath Collective attempted orbital bombardment last month on the human settlement breakthrough. 7 operators created a reverse gravity well that pulled the bombardment fleet into their own missiles. Total loss." Silence gripped the Council. "What do we know about these operators?" Daxmore demanded. Morsha activated a holographic display. Files on human operators scrolled past. "We've identified roughly 12,000 trained individuals. Ages range from 19 to 67. No consistent physical characteristics. Some are military, others civilian volunteers. One is a retired teacher. Another was a professional chef before training. How long does training take? Estimates vary. Basic unified field manipulation requires approximately 18 months. Combat proficiency, another year. Mastery? Morsha hesitated. "We don't know. The Chen family has been studying it for 3 generations. Daxmore studied the data. What are their limitations? Mental fatigue. Biological operators require rest, food, emotional stability. Push them too hard and their effectiveness drops. Commander Vexthor reported that Lieutenant Chen mentioned being tired and angry during her defense operation. Then we overwhelm them through attrition, Vrenkath suggested. Continuous attacks across multiple systems. Force them to exhaust their operators. And lose how many more fleets testing that theory, another counselor challenged. The debate raged for hours until a transmission interrupted them. Priority 1. Unencrypted. Broadcasting across every Krydash channel simultaneously. Director Hayes appeared in hologram above their table. "Gentlemen," he said pleasantly, "we need to talk." Daxmore roared. "How did you breach our security protocols? Operator 16 is a quantum communications specialist. Your encryption is just math. Math is what we do." Hayes sat down, somehow making the invasion of their war councils seem casual. "I'm here to offer terms. We don't negotiate with prey species. You do now, because here's your situation. You've lost 3 fleets. You're planning a 4th assault, possibly using extinction protocols. Let me save you the trouble and tell you how that ends." Hayes pulled up tactical displays showing Krydash military positions throughout the sector. "You hit us with everything. We defend with operators. You lose more ships. Eventually, maybe you overwhelm our defenses through sheer numbers. Congratulations, you've destroyed 1 colony." His expression hardened. "Then we get angry." Empty threats, Vrenkath hissed. "Really? You think the 12,000 operators we've trained are all defending colonies?" Hayes smiled without humor. "We've been peaceful because we chose peace. We stayed in our systems because we preferred development over expansion. You interpreted restraint as weakness." He tapped his datapad. New images appeared. Krydash homeworld, their shipyards, military academies, industrial centers. Operator 19 specializes in long-range applications. Last week, she created a stable wormhole from her apartment to the Andromeda Galaxy. Held it open for 6 hours while eating takeout and watching entertainment vids. Want to guess how hard it would be for her to open one from here to your homeworld's upper atmosphere? The council chamber fell silent. Operator 22 manipulates molecular bonds. He can turn your dreadnought hulls into breathable gas. Operator 27 works with biological fields. She could give your entire species simultaneous cardiac arrest from 3-star systems away. Hayes leaned forward. We don't lack capability. We lack motivation. Stop giving us motivation! Daxmore's voice shook with rage. You're bluffing. Such attacks would violate every galactic convention on warfare. Conventions you've already broken by targeting civilian populations. We didn't start this war, but we'll finish it if you force our hand. Hayes stood. Here are the terms. Withdraw all forces from human space. Pay reparations for the colonies you've damaged. Release all human prisoners. In exchange, we won't introduce you to the concept of offensive unified field operations. And if we refuse, then we stop playing defense. Hayes' image flickered. You have 72 hours to decide. After that, we demonstrate what humanity looks like when we're actually trying. The transmission ended. Counselor Vrankath laughed nervously. More bluffing. They've shown only defensive capabilities. Morsha pulled up new intelligence reports, her claws trembling. Sir, we've been monitoring human settlements. In the past hour, 17 new energy signatures have activated. Not at colonies, at apparently empty points in space. Explain. They're building something. Multiple somethings. Energy output suggests construction of large-scale unified field platforms in deep space. Unknown purpose. Daxmore felt cold certainty settle into his bones. Offensive platforms. They're building siege weapons. Siege weapons that can rewrite physics, Morsha added quietly. Positioned strategically around our territory. The council stared at the tactical display, watching violet lights bloom across the sector like deadly flowers. In 71 hours, they would learn what humanity meant by actually trying. None of them wanted to see it. Daxmore reached for the communication console. Draft the surrender terms. Contact the Human Diplomatic Corps. This war ends now. Vrankath protested. We outnumber them millions to 1, and they outthink us infinitely to 1, Daxmore replied. They've weaponized imagination itself. You can't beat that with numbers. The message went out across all channels. The Krydesh Empire requested immediate armistice negotiations. In his quarters on Perseverance Station, Hayes received the confirmation. He allowed himself a small smile. The platforms in deep space weren't weapons. They were research stations for studying dark matter. But the Krydesh didn't need to know that. Sometimes the best power was the power you never had to use. The armistice talks took place aboard the neutral station Concordia, deep in unclaimed space. Director Hayes led the human delegation with 3 operators as security. The Krydesh brought Supreme Overlord Daxmore, surrounded by elite guards carrying plasma rifles. The guards eyed the 3 humans nervously. No weapons, no armor, just neural crowns pulsing with faint violet light. Operator Maya Chen stood by the viewport, watching stars drift past. Operator Marcus Webb hummed quietly, his mind touching the quantum harmonics of the station's reactor. Operator Lisa Torres simply existed, her consciousness spread across 11 dimensions simultaneously. Let's begin, Hayes said, sitting across from Daxmore. Standard armistice protocols, withdrawal schedules, reparations framework, prisoner exchanges. Daxmore's scales shifted uncomfortably. Before we proceed, I must know. The platforms you're constructing in deep space, what are they? Hayes raised an eyebrow. Classified. We need assurance they're not weapons aimed at our homeworld. You need nothing except what we choose to give you. Hayes' tone remained pleasant but absolute. You killed our people, now you want transparency? Earn it. The negotiations ground forward. Withdrawal timelines, compensation amounts, territorial boundaries, every point contested, every clause debated. Then the doors burst open. A Kritish officer stumbled in, bleeding from multiple wounds. Ambush! Vorath assassins on the station. They're targeting the human delegation. Plasma fire erupted in the corridor. A squad of Vorath warriors stormed through, their crystalline bodies refracting light into deadly shards. They'd bypassed Concodia's security, infiltrated during the talks, planned to eliminate humanity's key operators. The lead Vorath raised a weapon at Hayes. Maya moved. She didn't run, didn't duck. She simply decided that the probability of the weapon firing successfully was 0. The rifle clicked empty. Fully charged energy cells suddenly drained. Their quantum states collapsed into inert matter. Marcus heard the Vorath warriors' skeletal structures resonating at a specific frequency. He hummed a countertone, and 3 attackers' crystalline bones shattered from harmonic interference. Lisa perceived the station's architecture, saw the support beams as mathematical load-bearing equations. She adjusted one variable. The ceiling section above the Vorath squad became temporarily non-Euclidean, folding space until the attackers found themselves standing on what had been the ceiling. Gravity reversed. The entire fight lasted 4 seconds. Dasmer stared at the disabled Vorath warriors, now hanging upside down, trapped in their own confusion as gravity pulled them toward a ceiling that had become their floor. "You didn't kill them," he observed. "We don't have to," Maya replied, sitting back down calmly. "Violence is inefficient," Hayes continued, as if nothing had happened. "Now where were we? Ah, yes, reparations. We're requesting... Wait." Daxmar held up a claw. "That demonstration? You neutralized an armed squad without weapons, without violence, in seconds. Why didn't you simply do that to our fleets? Why destroy ships when you could disable them?" Silence fell over the room. Hayes met the Overlord's gaze. "'Cause you needed to understand the cost of challenging us. Disabled ships can be repaired. Dead warriors can't be replaced. We wanted you afraid, not merely inconvenienced. So the destruction was psychological warfare. Everything is psychological warfare when you operate at our level." Hayes leaned back. "We could have turned your